Hi, my name is Brett, and today I'm going to show you how to build Versivo's direct deposit request form into the VersiForm application. As you can see from my screen, our existing form was built using Microsoft Word. We were really asking for a couple basic pieces of information. We have employee information, financial institution information, and we required a signature at the bottom. As you can see from the financial institution section, our payroll company allows us to have an employee's pay split between multiple accounts, and we need to accommodate those types of requests. Because of the signature piece, we found ourselves often printing these forms, processing them, and scanning them on the back end. This was far from our vision of having an office with less paper. I've now switched over to the VersiForm admin interface. Here I can create new templates and manage a lot of my global properties. I'm going to go ahead and select Create a Template. We're going to call this template Direct Deposit Demo. VersiForm is now prompting us to create formats. The first format that I'm going to create is one for a wizard. A wizard is going to allow a user to complete a form in a way that's intuitive to them. I can give it any name, but I'm just going to go ahead and call it wizard. At this point, none of these other properties matter. Before I show you how to create the next output format, what I'd like to do is show you what we did to the original direct deposit request form. We've essentially added some mail merge fields that will allow VersiForm to pass information into this Word document so that it's automatically populated based upon the values that a user enters when they're walking through and completing the wizard. I'm now going to show you how to set up the second output type. We'll call this PDF. Although it was a Word document, I want to pass the information to the Word document, but ultimately create it in a PDF so that it doesn't show up as an editable document. It's asking me for my Word template, and that's the one that I just showed you. So I'm going to browse to it and upload it from my machine. I could also have used a PDF as the basis for the template, but those are the only values that I need right now. Now that we've created our output formats, I'm going to go ahead and design our wizard. You'll notice that when I launch into the wizard for the first time, I have a blank canvas. The first thing that I want to do is add pages. The pages that I'm going to add correspond to the different sections on the form that we originally showed you. So I'm going to create an employee information tab and a bank information tab or page. When I do that, I can see them returned back to my designer, and I now have my tabs here, but I also have previous and next buttons that were added automatically. Before I start configuring fields, I'm going to go ahead and add a button. This button is going to serve as a submit button, but we're going to get creative and call it Get Paid. We have the ability to add styles. We're going to make this success, and we only want to show it on the last page. Because our HR manager doesn't get these forms every day, I want to send her an email, hr@versivo.com. And this is a pre-configured template that I showed you at the app level. And let's go ahead and attach a PDF. Now it's asking me for what rendition of the output to attach, and we called it PDF. The last thing I want to do is require that this document be electronically signed. So I'm going to flag it for signature and select the rendition that I want to have signed, and that's the PDF. There's a bunch of other properties that we could select, but at this time, we don't need to do it. Now we're ready to start adding our questions. In order to add questions, we need to right-click and first add a container. There's a bunch of different types of containers that make designing forms easy, but for now, we're just going to select a stacked container. You can see that it layers a grid onto the designer, and I'm now ready to start adding questions. The first question that I'm going to add is going to be a free text question. This will allow us to copy in the values from our original form. It'll serve as the header. Once I've pasted in the values, I have the ability to format and edit however I want, and pretty much what you see is what you get editor. The only thing that I'm going to do to this particular one is make it blue. I'm now ready to start adding my employee information questions. In the interest of time, I'm going to add all the questions at one time just to speed up the process a little bit. I'll come back later and edit them or configure them. The first thing I need to do is add a text box for the employee number, another text box for the first name, and another one for the last name. I then need a date field for the desired effective date, and a series of radio buttons for the reason why they're filling out the form. Also need to do a multi-line text box in case the reason they're filling out the form is because they no longer want to participate in the direct deposit program and they want a physical check mailed. I've added all my questions. Let's go ahead and label them. Employee number, employee first name, employee last name, desired effective date, action, and physical address. Now that we've added all the questions for employee information, I'm ready to right-click and start configuring them. When I edit the question information, I can see the name was inferred from the label that we put on there. I'm going to go ahead and make this required and also say, please enter employee number. First and last name will populate automatically. This help text is really helpful for screen readers and helping ensure form designers can create 508 compliant forms. We're going to put that below. I don't need a validation pattern or placeholder text. Just to show you what that would do, I'll say enter employee number here. We're not going to go over any display rules, but I am going to configure an autofill. Autofills allow us to use information, whether in an Excel spreadsheet or in a database, to use a field value to drive other field values. In this case, I'm going to use our employees table, which is part of our HR system. And I'm going to map the output of this web service, the employee first name, to the employee first name on our field, the employee last name to the employee last name on our form. And when I save that, if I were to go and run the form right now, you could see when I put in the number, employee number 1, I would get my information. If I put in someone else's employee information, it would automatically populate their first and last name. I'm going to continue with the configuration. On this field, I'm just going to make it read-only, since it's going to get auto-populated. I'm going to do the same thing to the last name field, read-only. I'm not going to do anything to the desired effective date right now, but I am going to configure our actions. For our actions, I got to figure out what the options are. I could either select a data set, or I could populate them manually. Since I don't have it configured, I'm going to populate it manually. And the last one's going to be change of account. Go ahead and save that, and those actions will be available as soon as I refresh. Physical address, I only want that to show up if someone's canceling their participation. So the way I do that is configure a display rule. My display rule is say show when the action is equal to cancel participation. I can make more complex rules around this, but for right now, we're deciding to only show this value if the action field is equal to cancel participation. I've switched over to the live form just to see how our configuration is looking. You can see the rules that we configured around employee number. The fact that the first name is read-only. Looks like I accidentally select required instead of read-only, but we can fix that there. If I put something into the date field, it knows it's a date, and I can either pick a date, change my year, change my month, etc. to populate it correctly. You also notice that the physical address field is hidden. If I select any one of these options, it remains hidden. But as soon as I select cancel participation, it shows it and allows me to enter a value. Before I continue, let's go ahead and clean up that error that we saw on the last name field. It was marked required. Let's make it read only and save that change. It may be important at this point to point out that you're probably not in love with our default style of the form that we're creating. And that's okay. The important thing to understand about VersiForm at this point is that we've designed it to give you, our customers, endless degrees of flexibility when it comes to pulling forward the branding or configuring the forms for the look and feel that you want. We provide some default themes at the application level that you can start with, but you can customize those all the way down to the form field level to make sure that it looks exactly the way that you want it to look. I'll quickly show you how to make one of the many simple style changes at this point. I'm going to edit the container. Instead of stacking the label on top of the field, I'm going to change it to horizontal and press save. When I do that, I can see that the form fields changed and how they're presented to the user. A couple more things to quickly show you how easy it is to design these forms is, let's say I put these in the wrong order. I can simply click and redraw them. Clearly I didn't have them in the wrong order, so I'm going to put it back to where it was. In addition to reordering the fields, I can also change the size. I can make fields smaller, larger, and also the padding. Very useful feature when coming to forms layout. An hour showing you all the features, the bells, and the whistles that truly allow you to create enterprise strength forms on this employee information tab alone. But in the interest of time, I am going to have to go to the bank information tab. Within our table container, I need to add a couple questions. I need to add a text box for the financial institution, a drop down for the type of financial institution, and 3 more text boxes, one for the ABA, one for the account number, and one for the percentage to deposit. I've taken the liberty to label these, and I'm just finishing up on the last one. I now need to configure this table or container to allow it to repeat. The first thing that I'm going to do is paste in my labels. I need to hide the labels that I put in previously, and I want to flag this as a repeating group. In order to make it work with our Word document, I have to call it the same thing that I did in the mail merge. I'm going to call that banks. Here I could specify that I only want 2, 4, or by leaving it blank, I get an unlimited number of rows that the user can add when they're filling out the form. I'm going to continue by configuring some of the questions in the table that we just created. I'm going to start with a financial institution. Let's make that required. And I want to show you another feature that we haven't talked about yet, and that's autocomplete. Autocomplete is going to allow a user to start typing a value, and we're either going to use a list, whether that's an Excel, or a database to automatically make suggestions about what values they can select. Since there was only one field in this web service, it's selected automatically, and I don't have to do anything else. I'm now going to add values to our account types. Again, I could select this from a data set, but since I don't have one, I'm going to manually type in checking, saving, money, market, other. Another nice feature is I can have placeholder text. And let's make our placeholder text select 1, so that it's obvious that when a user comes in, they have to select a value. The last field that I'm going to configure on this form is the routing number. When I right-click and edit the question, I want to show you this validation pattern. I'm posting in what's called a regular expression. This regular expression here says only allow the user to enter 9 digits. I understand that these are rather technical. For predefined ones, general users can select them from a list here. The reason I'm choosing to show these regular expressions is for more technical customers, they absolutely have the ability to put pretty powerful regular expressions in here to do complex data validation without needing to write any code. I'm going to write a custom error message, and we'll just say 9 digits only. If user were to enter something that didn't pass the test, they would get that error there. And the placeholder will be enter 9-digit ABA/routing number. And I'm going to save that. Let's go ahead and test our form. I've switched over to data entry mode, and I'm going to enter an employee number. And it correctly populated my first and last name. As I tab down, I'm going to say I want this effective March 1st, 2012. And again, let's say it's a change of account. But if I did select cancel participation, it would correctly prompt me for a physical address. But we'll say with change of account. I'm going to go to the next page. And as I start typing here, let's say Wells Fargo. I am getting a list of bank accounts. say this is a checking. If I enter bad data in here, it says 9 digits only. If I put 8 numbers in here, I'm still getting the error. At 9, it knows, yep, that's good. That's the format that I expected then. Account number, we'll enter anything, and let's say 80% of my check is to go here. Now I want to add another row. Second part of my bank, I want to go to a savings account, and my savings account is at Wachovia. And let's say it's Wachovia Bank NA. And it's a savings account. Well, it looks like too many digits. I fix my error, put in that, and 20%. Again, since we didn't configure a maximum, I could keep adding these. But at this point, I'm done with a form, and I want to get paid. Based on my configuration, a bunch of things are happening at the same time now. One, I'm presented to sign this document. This is an e-sign compliant solution. An email was also sent to hr@versivo.com letting them know that a new form is awaiting signature and it's been submitted. So I'm going to go ahead and sign this. Brett Thompson. Apply. And it's also asking me for my email address. And this is just part of the verification process. When I do that, I'm ready to assign it. Now behind the scenes, another email will get generated and it will go through the verification process to make sure that signature and that document is authenticated. With that, our demo of creating the VersiForm direct deposit request form is complete. I hope you've been able to see some of the power that exists in VersiForm. Truth be told, we've only scratched the surface. What we were able to show you in these 15 minutes was about 10% of what VersiForm can do. To learn more, please give me a call. Again, my name is Brett, and I can be reached directly at 703-963-3694. We would love to talk to you about how VersiForm can help you solve your enterprise form needs without the need of a programmer and without the need of your IT department. Thank you.